Ready to go? Here we go, everybody. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Then you're going to let me know. Okay, we are live. Is that correct? All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining Third Eye Salon once again. Or this might be your first time ever. We're really super duper happy that you're here with us. I've got with me today Mr. Drew Bankey. This is quite a different show than our normal show. And every week we look between the veils of reality, the different veils, looking between the dimensions, what's true and what's perception and all that good stuff. And so this particular show, we're talking about plant medicine and experiences with plant medicine. And my experiences with that, in particular, since this was the first time I had done Huachuma and then Changa with just with an ayahuasca back. So that was part of it as well, which I was not anticipating. But we're going to talk about that. And if you're not familiar with Mr. Drew Bankey, here he is. He's been on our show before, and actually that's what was a catalyst for me doing this, because I've been particularly interested in plant medicine for quite a few years, and scared and interested and just doing that little dance. And then meeting Drew, it was like, oh my God, this is literally, figuratively, literally in your backyard. You can drive 4 hours away and have this go experience these ceremonies. So and also Linda Coulter-Burge is here. I want to say first hello to Linda for being our tech person today and getting it all working. We're having a little bit of issues, but she mastered it once again. How are you, Linda?
I am doing great. Hi, everybody. And I apologize for us being a few minutes late, but between my computer and Zoom, they just know it's Saturday. So
it's Saturday.
It's always something on Saturday, and we just go with the flow. Thanks for holding in for us. I love that we already have some people in our chat. You guys make it so special for me. So be sure to ask questions during this process as well. I am so curious about Kat's journey, and I know you are too. So thank you for joining us. Like, share, subscribe if you know anyone who's even thinking about doing this. This is going to be a great conversation. Of course, everyone's experience is different, and it's not right for everyone, but we are going to learn more. So love you guys, and let's get going.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, applause in the background, please. Thank you. We have an audience in the back. The other journeyers who are now my friends. So yeah, Drew, thank you for being here, and I love you, and it's so good to be here.
This is my house. So
well, thanks for coming to your house today. Thanks for being in your home today. I meant specifically the podcast, but yeah, it's I wanted to make sure I anchor in on some points as well, that yeah, plant medicine is it is its own universe, and you really want to have a facilitator, because you want to have somebody who's steeped in the tradition to some degree, so they know how to facilitate and Drew's like a spiritual leader as well, which is not to put you on a pedestal, but it's just one of your gifts, is that you're meant to be a spiritual leader because of your own journey, your dark nights of the soul, and being able to make that journey is what you can say, okay, there's a path, I traveled it, here are some of the steps. You have to do your own, but I can at least turn some of the lights on from my personal experience.
Yeah, I don't I hate labels, because they
limit you.
Yeah, they put me into a box, but I mean, there's many different words to describe what I do, but really, honestly, at the core of it, I'm a little boy that was trying to find my own light, and coming through manhood and become a man, and I was still that little boy trying to find my own happiness. I found it through these ways, and now I want to spread it. And that's the basis behind it, and if whatever verbiage someone has to use, that's on them, but yeah, I guess I would, a spiritual leader, teacher, or whatever, I just try to remind people what's inherently inside them too, and be that mirror and reflection, so they can see it what's inside themselves, and that's why the basis behind why I share most of my stories is just to say, hey, this is possible, and you have just as much right to it as I do. So
Yeah, I would say that is one of your missions for sure that became transparent or apparent to me, because I was so much like, is this the right time to do this? Is this okay if I do this? Like I was very much, kind of looking for the structure. I'm very structure oriented, and wanting to make sure I didn't violate the structure. And Drew's much more like go with the flow. There's structure, but there's a lot of elasticity around that to accommodate for whatever's happening and for the people that are there. So it was, you provided like a gentle holding space for it, as opposed to now we're doing this, now we're doing that. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Like you're just, because I don't have, I can't compare this to anything because it's my first time. So, but I imagine that other ceremonies are probably a little bit more rigid, and there's probably a little more structure where it's like,
it goes both ways.
okay.
There's definitely, ceremonies where you set in and, you don't speak, the Taita only speaks, and, and there's other that are much more lax, and you're
Okay.
much more closer to more of a trip sitting like environment instead of more of a ceremony,
Yeah.
and I realize like mine, I'm trying to open it up to where everybody can feel comfortable, no matter where they're coming from. That I try to make it so whoever's coming in, I can be comfortable for and to have an experience, as long as it's not interfering with someone else's in the group. And then when the group melds together, like this last retreat that we've been through for the past couple of days, when the group melds together, like you guys, it makes it real easy. Everyone was really supportive and really coming together. That usually happens with every retreat at one point, but it really happened really soon with this group. Which this time was kind of different because we did the Huachuma hike in the beginning, and normally we would do the ayahuasca ceremony first night, and then the Huachuma hike would be the last, and that would be the culmination of the weekend. So it was a little backwards than what it normally is. So it was just really interesting for me to see how it played out differently.
I would agree. It felt like the very first night we got here, we started to, Drew invited us to help peel the Huachuma. And so that became this little, like, just a gentle, bonding moment where we got to laugh. And I think laughter was definitely one of the main guests in this experience, is that laughter was always welcomed. And that was great. And everybody is just, you just fall in love with these people because they're vulnerable and they're real and they're available. And so and then obviously Huachuma is heart medicine. It is about the heart, and it's about connecting into your heart. And so let's talk about that then. Let's talk about the Huachuma ceremony, how that was. Because again, I found like a time and again, it was like I had expectations, and it's something the universe has been trying to get me to see over and over again. It's like, yeah, those are your expectations. And Kimberly, one of our people here at the event, said something brilliant about expectations are premeditated disappointment. And it was like, boom, like mic drop. Like that was so on it. And so during the Huachuma, we're walking through, we're having some ceremony. Drew's doing the music and the chanting. And I'm like, okay, so we're doing this. And this is awesome, but I'm waiting for something to kick in. I'm waiting for something, because really cannabis is probably my mainstay when it comes to plant medicine. And there's a notable difference, right? So there's an expectation that I'm going to take this and there's going to be something, but it was very subtle. And it wasn't until we had some cannabis along the path where it was like, then it started to open up for me, and I started to connect with it on a different level. I think because cannabis is a very familiar terrain for me. And yeah, me personally, I noticed a lot of my own thoughts, like judgments, expectations, became this thing of like, here's what's in front of your heart. Like, here's what's blocking your heart connection, is all of these thoughts, all of this stuff. It's not letting you be in your heart because you keep looking for something that's not there. So that's not actually going to serve you.
Beautiful message.
Oh, thank you. And that's what, because I was like, is this the experience I'm supposed to be having? And it just became a point of like, whatever your experience is you're having is the experience.
Yeah.
And then I was doing my own little meditation, because I'm definitely a kitty cat who likes to pad away and go to my own space for a while and then rejoin the group and then leave again. And so I was in my own space within the group, but in my own space and doing a meditation. And then that's when my heart did start to open up. And I was just feeling like I wanted to like touch other people's hearts, like people who I've had conflict with on Facebook for whatever belief systems that are not in alignment. And to be able to put my hand on their heart, wanting them to put their hand on my heart and say, I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. I don't care what you believe. I love you. And wanting to have that sort of reconciliation with people that I've had conflict with. So that was really cool. And then then it shifted into like loving all the people in the group and just feeling a genuine love and appreciation for them. So that kind of like brought me into the rest of it, where it was more like being, again, watching my thoughts, but being here and knowing that it was just a matter of showing up and letting love have its platform, like let love have its platform and listen to love. What was your experience of that, or do you want to share about what you thought in terms of being the leader of the gang?
Just the transformations and the animal messages and everything that was always there especially with the snakes was a big part of our ceremony. And the snakes represent so much close connection to Mother Earth, and transformation is the shedding of the skin is like that's a real big message with the snake. So it was really awesome to see to have those experiences, and especially with the we had an experience with a rattlesnake where it crawled really between me and one of the participants, and it was just really calm. It wasn't irritated with us being there at all. We were just cohabitating in the same environment without without any anger involved. We were just cohabitating with the snake, and it was just an awesome moment to see that. And the whole thing, the whole weekend in general, I just to see how people have those epiphany moments, whether they're whatever, just those light bulb moments of that's why we do what we do, so in general, just it's a blessing walking like that. And I remember saying in the prayer before the walk with Huachuma about if it pours down rain, we're just gonna walk in it.
Yeah.
And it was just super sunny and no clouds, and I knew just as soon as I said that it was gonna rain. But yeah, those moments for me, those are the personal gifts for me, and also like seeing the breakthroughs that people have,
yeah.
The individual at the end on the rock, just the really deep breakthrough that she had is just so, it fills me up. It fills my cup so much, because the whole reason I do it is because I know how magical it is for each one of these synchronicities that's got me to where I'm at now. I know how they felt when they came, and if I can be part of recreating that, I had the dream. I told Cardell, I was like, I love my job. Like, there's nothing else I could do in this world other than this. Like,
yeah, you're living your job. That's for sure. Yeah, I wanted to comment a couple of those things, because that's one of the points I'd wandered away and was kind of doing my meditation when the snake showed up, but which I'm kind of glad about. And then when they were calling me back, they're like, Kat, don't walk over there. There's a rattlesnake. And I'm like, because this place, in my mind, this place is infested with rattlesnakes. Like where we are, I just feel like they're just behind every bush. But it was definitely, that experience was like, I could get that, where it's like this rattlesnake was like, yeah, you guys are cool, you're getting it. And it was just like part of the environment, listening in, taking notes, or listening in with its tongue and taking notes. And that was cool. And then when our friend had her break down and break through, it was like she had been so introverted the entire time, and then she was like, fuck it, this is who I am, and blah blah blah, this is what I'm going through. And she just let herself take her space and beautiful. Be loved and be supported.
Yeah.
And that was really beautiful to be a part of, just energetically, supporting her in the energy of it and just sending her love while she was processing it. Do you have any questions or thoughts, Linda, or any people that have questions so far?
I do have questions. So I have more like logistic questions, like how many people participated and what was it like in the environment? Were you
We had
inside, outside, both?
Yeah, there were 6 participants plus this man. And then what was the other question?
Kind of what your environment was like. Were you, because you look at different videos and some of them have cots laid out, some of them have pillows laid out. Like,
Right.
what was the environment like?
So this is the difference between Huachuma and Changa / ayahuasca, is that Huachuma is a masculine plant, and so it's a solar energy. So we walked through just the local terrain, which is gorgeous and deadly. And we just, we took, there was like different shifts of who's a leader and then following somebody. And then, so we're going throughout this gorgeous terrain, and yeah, it's hot at one moment, then, oh, here comes the storm rolling in, and not a storm where we're being pelted, but like this, it felt really refreshing and enlivening, like with this, to have this, cool rain hitting you, and then for it to go away and the sun to come back out. And you're going on different, just kind of random locations, hanging out, drinking some more, having more communication and contact just with each other, or going off and doing your own thing. And so it's more active. So you're physically moving, you're in the sunlight, you're engaged in solar energy. And then
was it more vibrant for you? Were you
everything was really pretty. I mean, it wasn't like whoa, but it was just like, oh, like the beauty was amplified, I would say.
Yeah, we there's the environment's a big part of this, because the experience is really external, because your eyes are open, where opposed to ayahuasca, your eyes are predominantly closed throughout the ceremony. This is you're walking and you're very much in the present moment. So the environment is a big part of the ceremony. So we depending on who's coming, we pick different environments to take the participants through. This one is the Rio Grande River, goes all the way to Mexico, down through Texas, down to Mexico, the border of right out there, El Paso and Juarez. So that river runs right through this area. So that's a part of it. We go down there and we talk. I share a little bit about that, and I share about how sometimes I share about how the river carries energy. It's like a highway for energy, so we can pray for Mexico, and it'll get there a lot faster than if we can pray, just praying here. If we pray by the water, we're actually hitting that, and that's that's old stuff. That's just it's really blatant in our face, but we just concentrate on so much other stuff that we've kind of forgot about it. But all we gotta do is just take a deep breath and just think for a moment of how just thinking with our heart. That was a big theme of mine through especially the Huachuma hike. I pushed thinking with your heart instead of your mind. It's not mandated that you think with your mind. That's a very, very over preconceived notion that we have to process everything through our mind. Think with our heart, and the truth of it is we process most of it through our stomach, but if we can concentrate on processing through the middle chakra, the heart chakra, if we can think through there and process through there, that's how we live. And that's the basis behind the Huachuma hike. Everything else is just variables of the day. And the rain was come at a beautiful time, is kind of getting pelted by the sun a little bit and kind of trying to look for shade, and all of a sudden just a little light sprinkle just gave us that moment. And that's always a good time to bring out the cacao. So I bring out a little piece of chocolate.
And everyone gathered around. It was like wherever people were at, we're all like, we came back in with the cacao.
Yeah, there's little tricks that my teachers taught me on how to, and my job during all these ceremonies is constantly shifting, especially the Huachuma is shifting energy back and forth. Like, so at the beginning of the Huachuma hikes I do this big speech, and a big part of it's like, we're going to walk in this line and from start to finish, and we're never going to change it. But I always change it in the middle, and it's always a point where the whole group gets this blindsided, it's and It's there's a technology that is embedded in that it was taught by my teacher, and it's just simply shifting the energy, knowing when the medicine is taking hold, and then shifting the energy at that point. And yeah, it's weird, but there's little tricks like that, and I shared it with the group a little bit actually when I was doing it, why I was doing it and stuff, some of the things, because I believe these technologies and everything, we all have a right to them, and it's time that these shamans and medicine people didn't share some of the stuff in the past because they would work, they were giving away their secrets of their job. But it's time we don't need shamans moving forward if we're evolving into oneness consciousness. So
that's really well said. And that was something that Drew was saying, yesterday or the day before. But it was having to do with that, wanting to make it accessible to people, but in a conscious way. Because I was asking him, is it okay if I did this on my own? What would, is that, because I don't want to like white guy it, and just be like, I'm going to make it my own and piss on your ceremonies and traditions, and I'm just going to do what I want to do. So I don't want to do that. And it's like, is it okay to do this? It's okay to do that. And Drew's response was just, again, very empowering, where it's like, if you're approaching it from a sacred space, that's your relationship. And I don't have permission or authority to tell you about your relationship, but other than to give you kind of these container of sacredness to work with it in that, as opposed to being somebody who's looking for a trip, because that's not what it's about. Even though people do have that experience, and sometimes they have great experiences, sometimes it's horrendous. But I think that when you're engaged, it's a relationship. And I feel like it's all about relationship. And no matter what's your relationship to water, what's your relationship to food, the plant medicine, the spirits behind the plant medicine, it's like relationship. So if wherever you're showing up and you're like, oh, that's mine, I can do whatever I want. Well, then that's the container you're creating, but that's going to have a boomerang effect, because that's not balance.
Very well put.
And you had mentioned earlier that it's good to have somebody with you to guide you.
I think it's important your first time through, in terms of Huachuma is very different than ayahuasca in terms of the experience. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine having an intense ayahuasca experience on your own, but some people do that. You did that? You would do it. All right. I would not. If I was going to do straight up ayahuasca, I'd want to have a facilitator for sure. I wouldn't do I don't even want to do mushrooms on my own again, because it was so intense. I'm like, who do I process this with? And I just, Linda, or one of my friends I reach out to and be like, yeah. So any other questions about Huachuma, and then we can turn the conversation to, or any other reflections before we turn into ayahuasca?
I don't have any questions from the audience, so I think we're good.
Good. Okay.
It seems very much softer. What were the physical responses? Any physical?
No, I really didn't. It was just very gentle, and it was more about, because Huachuma means head off, where it's not about being in your head. And even though I was in my head throughout a lot of it, it was more of an awareness that I was in my head. So it's like, here's your terrain, and this is what's impeding, just through your heart. And so that kind of gives me a framework for my work. I'm very, very analytical. And I can be very critical or critiquing, which is a great skill, but it can also really, you can trip up over it. So I felt like for me, it's like I didn't have a head off experience where I was just like in the moment, which was an expectation. I was like, I'm just going to be in the moment. It's going to be like this. And that's another expectation, which is a head thing. So it was more about just it being what it was, and taking the gifts for what they were collectively and individually.
So also more just being present, being in presence.
The practice of that, which to me, it's like, wow, practice. Yeah, maybe practice would be good for you, Kat, to get better at that and not be so hyper extended in terms of how are other people doing, what's happening here, what are they thinking, and then it's just like, it's a lot of work. Don't do that. And just be able to let things be what they are, because I can be very
getting out of the head talk, the trash talk, and really getting into the presence of being there. I did have a question. I think we kind of covered it, but I'm going to read it anyway.
Okay.
Just wanting you to talk more about how you process through various senses and or if your chakras, which chakras felt more activated, and did you feel more grounded during this process? Did you feel that shift, which I think is great.
Well, for this one, and again, this is going to be my experience because somebody else is going to tell you something else. So it's really individual. So this is not one size fits all. For me, it was, when I went to do meditation stuff, that's when I felt more connected and more grounded and more in tune. But other than that, it was just sort of a moment by moment, look at what you're thinking. Oh, do you see how critical that is? Oh, do you see how you're overanalyzing that? Oh, do you see that's an expectation? It was more like, that was my terrain. I was like stumbling over or walking through my own personal terrain as we're making this journey through the landscape. So I didn't have a sensation of like, oh, that's my chakra. Oh, this is that. There was a certain point where it was like, when we were taking the final cup of it, and I was talking about like heart stuff, and I was like the whole thing I'd said about wanting to connect heart to heart and have forgiveness, and I was like, oh, Huachuma's heart medicine, like, oh, I just got it. Like that's what we're doing is heart medicine. Like I remembered. So like that was more of that experience of the light turning on, I guess, in that moment.
I think that we've got an agreement with a lot of people watching, which is mine too, that we're all control freaks. And I remember, Drew, last time you were on the show, you said you love control freaks. And working with control freaks. I happen to know Kat's a bit of a control freak too. So hearing this response, was there apprehension for you, Kat? Was it
not for the Huachuma
relationship? Okay.
Not for the watch for the Changa, yes.
Okay.
That
so
was
I think maybe that's where we
Can I ask
move
a question
into.
before we move to
Yeah.
Of you, do you see now experiencing both, how one is more considered like you're walking with your grandfather and the other one is setting with your grandma?
No, I would say the ayahuasca was like, you're in a different universe, your rules don't apply, no one cares what you think.
Okay,
like it didn't feel grandmotherly or warm or loving. It was like, bitch, here you are, what are you gonna do? Nothing, we're in control. So that was my experience of it.
I'm just saying with the San Pedro, you're walking with it, and the lessons would be more like if you're walking with a masculine figure, they're saying, okay,
I could see grandfatherly with that, yes. And I do like that. I do like that analogy where I can see like with the grandmother energy, even though I didn't experience anything grandmotherly, but ayahuasca is much more like, because it's Changa is a hyper concentration of ayahuasca, and in the ceremony you take a little bit of ayahuasca, you drink some of that, which no one told me in advance, and then you smoke, because the ayahuasca is like, it can catch the Changa and you can have a more sustained experience, as opposed to it being just a DMT moment where you're off and then you're back. So I forgot the question. Grandmotherly. So for me, it was not grandmotherly at all, but I can see where people would have that experience if they surrendered completely. It could probably feel like that, but she's just like, I'm your grandmother, get in the car, we're gonna go. Like it's more like that versus like, honey, would you get in the car? So, no, she's not gonna ask you anything. You're just gonna, yeah. So
okay. So on that note, I think we need to talk about the next phase. So that was phase one, right? That was day one.
Yeah, that was it was day one, and we had a lovely evening. I want to say Ella, Drew's wife and partner, is just a lovely human being. She just made all this food for us so when we came back home, there was a feast. She was like, she's so sweet and warm and genuine. And she gave us a gentle landing spot. Not that we had a hard day or anything, but it was just such a warm heart space to come back into, because I think she's just all heart. So
yeah.
So I wanted to make sure Ella is acknowledged in that, because she really is a counterpoint or a counterbalance in all of this as well.
She's and being in nature, you're not swishing away spirits, you're swishing away flies.
They're flies, yeah, sorry.
Living on a horse farm, so
Some flies got in. Yeah. But we're gonna say about
Ella's pregnant, so that's why she didn't go on the hike. So that's some recent news, and this is the first podcast that's been spoke about. So yay! So excited for this little medicine baby come in.
medicine baby.
This little sunshade, whatever your star seed, all kinds of it. It's gonna be all the above. So
Yeah.
I'm just really honored to do it with Ella, and really honored to connect in our relationship deeper by sharing a child together. And
Yeah. You were saying,
Congratulations. I'd love if she ever wants to pop in and say hi to everybody since we're talking about her. I'd like to
she's probably sleeping. We went till 2 a.m, which also I didn't know was going to happen. So so she's probably recovering. But yeah, so does it feel like it's a good time to talk about the
I think it's time
Part
to
two?
move on. You're getting lots of congratulations on your baby. So
Oh,
congratulations.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. That feels really
Lots
good.
of loving wishes.
Thank you.
It feels like a male energy
Yeah.
when I tune into it. It feels like a
Yeah. We already decided that.
Oh, okay. You already
we both said it's gonna be a boy.
Yeah, I can feel that.
My oldest daughter Sienna, she's turning 18 next month, so spacing them out a little bit.
Just a wee bit. It's lifetimes apart.
Yeah.
Really on the energetic level as well, and who you were and who you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's totally different.
Yeah, you're totally different man.
Person. Yeah. It seems like totally different lifetimes.
It does. Because you talking about your story before, it's just these people's experiences, like that's the thing that I really want to say, even though my experience was like, what the fuck did I just sign up for? I can see that like when people who are surrendering into it and they've had like it is a soul death, because it's like it's a death to your old life, and then ayahuasca just takes you for the face and takes you where you need to go. And it's a revelation in terms of what else is out there and what's really real. And so the stories that you hear of people who were like in a dark, hard spot and met ayahuasca, and their transformation is so much more radical because it is day and night. And that's where I, even though despite my experience, that's where I'm just like, this is medicine. It's one of the key avenues for people to get out of hell and into heaven. And ayahuasca is willing to, kick your ass through the door as soon as you let her do it.
Yeah. That'd be a good baseline of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said soul death, but I think more ego death.
Well, it's ego death, but I feel like it's just, I mean, again, this wasn't my experience. This is me like analyzing other people's experiences. And I feel like I say soul death because it was the old self where their soul was maybe bound up. And so that had to be broken through so their hearts could actually open. Like Cardell, who's just this walking heart. He's just like this big heart on legs. Like his experience was, he was telling, when we were sharing during the Huachuma, he was saying that he used to, because we were both, that's actually, okay, so we were both feeling the vibration in our heart at that point, but it wasn't like, oh my God, my heart's vibrating. It was just like, oh yeah, I really feel my heart's really open. And I'm very heart-centered anyway, so it wasn't alien to me. But he was just saying like, this is what I used to feel. I used to feel this normally, and I was given medication for it. Like I used to feel my big heart open like this, and I was given medication because it was, they needed to clamp it down. So that was like, oh, wow. And that's why I think I would say this experience of this has to die in order for your heart to actually open in your soul. I think the heart is the brain of the soul in physical form. And that like if you're not, this is the wisdom of the soul is right here. It's the intelligence of the soul. And this is the brain, my brain is the brain for my body, but my heart is my brain for my soul. And I think that's just how we're made. That's my take on it.
Okay.
All right. Enough about
that. Day two started at what time?
So, day 2, I mean, we got up,
Darkish.
It started darkish. That was another thing where it's like, so what time, Drew? Darkish. So is that like, it's darkish? So it just meant, you know, being back here when your internal clock said it was time to come back. And we had like a lovely day. I mean, we went out and met up at the Hooper pool. It's a hot springs here. And that was cool. That's a beautiful facility. But then we gathered back around at darkish and got our bags in position, our sleeping bags, and, you know, our bedding or whatever. And I think people just kind of started going into their own space a little bit to get ready. I certainly did. I went and, you know, did my own prayer and intentions and all that before we came back in. And then I kind of want to recount it just a bit, like moment by moment in a way, because this is such an otherly experience that I can't equate to anything else I've experienced, that I want to be really mindful of what that journey was like. And again, this is for me. I don't know that anyone else experienced anything like this, or that I experienced anything like anyone else experienced. You know, I think it's really unique. So we started with just with song and prayer and meditation, and correct me if I'm missing anything. And then gosh, and so we're doing, okay, this is then when okay, and also I just want to say, okay, so there were bits along the way that it was like, oh, and then this can happen, oh, then that's gonna happen. And I was like, no one told me. It was just like all this anticipation or expectation from other people's stories. And it was like, how this could go any fucking way at all. Like, just it could go anywhere. And it just became another thing of like, okay, don't, like, that's an experience, but don't hold on to it. You know, don't. Yeah. Anyway, so it kind of was like a thing of like, more and more, this could happen, let it go. Oh, this is going to happen now. You don't have, you know, it's just part of the ceremony. You may not have been told or told, it doesn't matter, too late, you're doing it. Yeah, because one of the things was I didn't know we were actually going to drink ayahuasca, because in my mind I was like, oh, we're going to smoke this, I'll have an experience, I'll pop out, I'll have, you know, we'll do whatever, and I'll come back in, and it'll be this thing, it'll be life-changing. But to me, when you say you're going to drink ayahuasca, I think, oh God, I don't want to purge, I don't want to go through all like that, the bodily stuff. So that was a layer of anxiety. And then as we were kicking things off, and, you know, the mood's being set with the lights, and the songs are going, then it's revealed that we're going to have rape blown up our nose. And so I thought rape was like, oh, we're going to smoke this like a tobacco cigarette. No, it's shot up your nose by somebody else blowing through a device. A tepe, put your rape in the tepe and you shoot up someone's nose. So then, and then, so I'm seeing this happen. I've seen other, because that's the other thing is like, you know, when Ella does this to Drew's like, yeah, you know, and so he's done it 1,000 times, right? And then you see this, you know, this other person experience it, and you're like, oh shit. And you see the next person experience it, it's like, oh my God, oh God. And so, you know, because people are having different reactions. And so then it's shot up one nostril, and it's like, and I can't express, you know, when you get water up your nose in the swimming pool, if that could be liquid fire going up your nose instead of water, it's kind of what it's like. And at first it's like, what? Ah! And like, it's just burning. And then it's like, okay, now your other nostril. Okay. And so shooting it up at the other nostril. And I know at one point I was like, like I grabbed Drew's arms. And I'm like, because I haven't experienced it before, right? And then after that, it was like once that kind of cleared, and other people are having a variety of reactions, and some people are gagging, and I was like, oh guys. But I actually went to like this kind of euphoric state with it, and it was like, for me, there was like some stuff. I'm so glad I did a 2-week cleanse before I did this, because I think I had less to purge. So it kind of came up like, oh yeah, now I need to spit. But I felt more euphoric, and more like, I was like, oh, if I could that, my head is so clear and I feel so connected. If I could just ride that would be great, because it just I don't know, cleared it and balanced everything.
Yeah, like you know, like especially this last night, Ella gave me a little more. I gave myself the tobacco, and then Ella administers it, but I gave myself a little more, and I felt it shoot up into my head, and I knew every person that I did, I was doing the same thing. And I could actually see the energy go up through each nostril into your brain, you know. And that's the beauty of this medicine. It's, you know, expectations and how we look at these things, until you experience them, you don't really understand how powerful they are, you know, like
Or painful.
Kat, would you have the advice to be the first one to do it, so you're not watching everyone else go
Yes.
through it?
Yes, I would. Because again, expectation. Because then there's like this dread being like, oh no, okay.
Build up.
It's going to happen. It's like being on top. It's like you jumping off a diving board, but you don't know if that's water below you. What is that beneath me? I don't know. Like, but you're going to jump off, you know? So it's kind of the thing of, yeah. And then you see someone else struggling or somebody else crying, and you're like, and if to not have that in your head is probably a better thing. But again, I think once you experience it, then it's like that kind of goes and you go into your own experience.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it doesn't matter. You're I want to say like you're in so much pain that like everybody else's experiences, it doesn't matter, because you can't help but focus on being where you're at inside of that and being like, what is happening right now?
It's definitely the main tool that rapé is used for, is to bring us into the moment. Because especially with ayahuasca, you know, I would love to record, like, just put a microphone in the room before the ceremony starts. The conversations get really weird. Like they're very physical, and I can just see everybody's minds trying to be in that physical, and because the spirit knows what's about to happen, because everything's timeless. So it knows it's about to go into ceremony. So everything is trying to back away from that. And that happens like with the whole group. And, you know, the rapé is that moment. You know, I can sit here and say, okay, it's time to take some breaths and go within for the 15 minutes. But undoubtedly, there's still going to be conversation about, you know, what's on the news or something very physical. It happens every time. The rapé is specifically designed to go before the ayahuasca, to bring everybody into themselves. And because just like I explained with hiking with the Huachuma, the steps with the Huachuma are designed to bring you in the moment and let the medicine work. It works a lot better if you're in the moment and not thinking about past or present. Past or future. And the same way with ayahuasca, you know, you have to be in the moment for the ayahuasca to really for it to work appropriately. And the rapé does that. You know,
I was going to say, it seems like it forces you, just through the pain and the physical sensation, like you have no choice. It literally blasts away everything else.
Yeah, I want to be clear about the pain, though. It's not. You're not. Your soul's not splitting in half.
No.
But it's the physical sensation.
It's a burning sensation that. It's unique, you know. I can say it's like having, you know, water up your nose in the swimming pool, but to a 10th, you know what I mean? It's not the same. And so again, it's the unexpected. It is the loss of control, this is happening and I don't know what's going to happen next. Oh, fucking well. And you just, you know, you have to surrender to it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's the first step of true surrender in the process.
Yeah. I think that's a good.
Yeah. Perfect. You know, that's what all these are about, you know. And from the minute people show up, you know, I how many times have you heard me say trust and surrender? You know, from time you pull in the driveway and get out of the car, you know, hey, welcome. The mantra here is trust and surrender, you know, keep it in mind, you know. And it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't really hit fully everyone until after they've sat with me, you know. Cardell's always here, you know, like laughing and giggling in the background, because he's heard the speech not 1,000 times, but multiple times, enough times to know that there's a reason why he's saying this. And it's just fun, you know.
Yeah, that's a word for it. But I really did dig that. And at one point I was like, maybe I should ask for more, but I didn't want to interrupt the ceremony and be, you know what I mean? Anyway, I was very concerned about being mindful of everybody else's needs and whatnot. All right, so then we do that. Oh, then we drink. So then after that, then we go ahead and we drink everyone comes up to the front where the altar is, which is where this table is at, but it's set up as an altar. And then, and again, if I miss anything, let me know. And we take turns having the ayahuasca. And so for me, the ayahuasca, like I downed it in a gulp.
We did prayer intention in between that.
Oh yes, and we shared. So everyone went around the circle and shared what their intention was if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And then also praying for whoever and whatever you wanted to pray for, which is very beautiful. Everyone kind of got to put their hearts in the center of the room in terms of what was up for them and what was, their intention. So then after that, and there's gaps in between where there's just kind of like a little processing between each part of the ceremony. Not gaps, but processing time. Okay, and so then we come up and we do the ayahuasca, and that, like, after having the rape at my nose and having that experience of like, whoa, this feels so great, I was like, okay, watch. I was like, this is great. Ayahuasca, it'll be fine. I'm gonna not it'll be fine, but like I'm really curious now because I really like the smoke up the nose, or the tobacco up the nose. So we do that, and I down it in a gulp, and I didn't gag. Like it was just I've tasted way worse like vitamin or herbal supplements, like I think like echinacea probably tastes.
That's what it is. That's what it is, though. It's a herbal supplement.
Yeah. Well, of a different proportion, but like it had a tang to it, but I wasn't like gagging. It just didn't seem that bad. Like from what other people have said, but I think you also you put other things in it to help the taste not be quite as intense, right?
Well, not this blend. And,
oh, really?
And all blends are particular. This blend, is from Brazil, and it tends to be a little sweeter. Like there's different tribes and different blends of this medicine. So just like we are, even though it's ayahuasca, it may look have a different shade to it, different consistency, and taste different. And it's just like us. Every single bottle of ayahuasca, even if it's from the same cook, it's gonna be different. But yeah, this one has a little more sweeter taste. And yeah.
Again, this is the first time I ever tasted it, but you just hear people trying to not retch from the taste of it at first, and it was like, oh, this is fine, like that's strong, but it's fine, like I can do that. I've had whiskey way more intense than that, right? Straight whiskey. So yeah, and again, other people are having other reactions, and is definitely purging going on, but I just didn't have that. Like to me, it was really mild. And I was like, yeah, my tummy is a little, I can feel that in my tummy, and, just doing some breath work and whatnot. But I didn't feel a need to throw up. I didn't feel a need to use the restroom, for which I was really grateful for. Just because again, loss of control and being in a group of people, and, oh, you can hear me taking a big old dump right next to where you're laying down. Great. So just, things like that, where it's just it's so personal, and intimate, this, and it really is humbling in the fact that, like, hey, we all got bodies, we all poo, we all puke, and it's just going to be real, and get the fuck over it.
Yeah, that's, I always, I also try to do I always do the medicines first. Every medicine that's administered, I'm the first one to take it. And
yeah,
if I got a burp, I'm burping. If I got a fart, I'm farting. And that let other people know, like, this is not a time for you to be pardon me,
social norms of like, ooh,
this is a time, and there's always people in ceremony that hold like different character roles. There's always the person that has kind of underestimated the ceremony. There's a person that's on the edge that really needs a transformation. There's someone that's coming to really further them, that has already on the path but wants to further themselves. And there's sometimes someone that comes that's been off the path for a while and come back. So to see that play out and to see these patterns, and I get to see this happen, once or twice a month, and this has been for years. So I get to see patterns play out like this, and it's really interesting to see that, to see those other layers of the ceremonies happening, and say, wow, it's like, okay, I'm always going to have someone that has control issues, like that is really knows that they have control issues and wants to doesn't know how to fix that.
Mm.
And, you know, but they just need to see what life is like without control, you know, and understand it can go just as good. Maybe it could be better, even if I don't have control at all. And that's what these ceremonies really show at the basis of it. You know, I think it's just one of the
Recurring
infinite amount of
themes.
lessons that they show. But that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I would say that's a reoccurring theme because that's a life lesson where you're like, you
Yeah.
learn how to let go of control. And depending on the plant medicine, you get to experience that this way or that way. Like Huachuma might be like, hey, let's just let go of control and be in the present. And ayahuasca's like, bitch, drop your control. We're going, get in. Whoa! You know? So it's a little bit different it's a different experience. All right. So then let's talk about anything else before we go into the actual experience of the Changa. Anybody asking anything? Any
Nope,
sass
they are
in the audience?
they are ready to hear the next step.
Okay.
They're
So
laughing
again,
a lot. They're laughing.
What's that?
Just so you know, there's lots of laughter going
Okay.
on in your expression.
Good.
It's good. That's good.
That's great medicine.
It is medicine. That was one of our first, we were all about the laughter from the first time we all got together. So we were, So, all right. So again, so now it's time for the Changa, and my excitement for it has since waned. And I'm just like, you know, what would be great is to just go to bed and just go to sleep. I think I wish I could just do that, and knowing that that's not really an option. And so the process starts, and again, you're watching other people do it, and it's like, oh, and just that internal thing of being like, what the fuck have you signed up for? And so, you know, you watch one person go and they have an experience, another person go, oh God, their experience. And it's like, okay, it's my turn. Okay, I can't get off this. I can't get off this. And so Drew has told us, you know, 2 or 3 times about the breathing process where we are going to breathe in, and then you're going to hold it, and then you're going to release. You're going to take your own breath. You're going to breathe in, and you're going to try to fill it into your body all the way down, like from your root chakra up. And, you know, when we're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And then the third one, that's the hardest one, because apparently Drew was like, at that point, you won't be able to see me anymore. And I was like, oh God. What is this? And so he's like, so that third one is the one you really want to get, because that's the one that's going to like kick you over the edge and finally take you there. Otherwise, you can just have a lovely light show, and that can be kind of, you know, it's a certain level, but you're not going to go all the way over. And so when it comes to my turn, I'm like, and again, it's just that thought of like, what am I actually putting into my body right now? Just that you know, that mortal dread of what have I gotten myself into? And so then I do the first one, and then I'm listening to Drew, and I'm forgetting the other parts. I have to have him tell it to me again before we go, because at that point, like, I'm now in that like deer in the headlights where like, oh shit, this is really happening. And so I do it, and then he tells me to hold it. I'm like, good job, you're holding it, Kat. And then comes the second one, and I'm like, oh, and it's coming in.
I remember you said, okay.
I said, oh dear. Is what I said. Because by the second one, everything started to become incandescent. And I was like, oh, this is where he says, I can't see him anymore. So everything kind of becomes incandescent. And then there's just light shapes that start to protrude out of the environment. And the third breath, because in this, then the experience of this is, you know, when you get out of the bathtub, really, if you're nice and relaxed, this is my experiences. If I get in the bathtub, I'm nice and relaxed, and then I get up too fast, my head goes whoosh, like, and it just starts to rush, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna pass out, I'm gonna fall over. It was like that, but way more intense. There was like a like the sound at the top of my head just started to amplify, and I was like, was this? And again, it's like, was this a good idea? Are they telling me this was a mistake? What? Because it's the beginning of losing your control. And so then that happens. And the third one, I'm like, I know I'm supposed to take it in, but my body doesn't know how to inhale anymore. Like it's like there's just a disconnect of like what my body's supposed to be doing and how to actually do it, because now my brain is someplace else, you know, or my awareness has shifted into another dimension. And so it's like, and then this is the thing I was watching Drew do, like when whoever, if you couldn't get the rest of your smoke out, he would just go and so suck it up for you. And I was like, how are you just sucking up everybody else's like leftover changa and walking around in a circle? Like, I don't know how you're physically able to do that. So other than it's just your path, like this is who you are, so you can do it. So that happens, and it's like, and the whole thing is like you're gonna start to fall backwards. And so I take in as much as I can. I didn't take in the full third dose, not because I just didn't know how to take it in. You know, like that point, it was just like I couldn't take any more in because I didn't know how. You know, does that make sense?
You forgot how to breathe.
Yeah, it was just like that was
It forgot about your body.
I don't know. It's just like you can't command. It takes a big command to say, okay, I still have the wherewithal to command my body to take all this in, because my body's like, what the fuck's in here? Like, I don't, you know, like my body was like, no, that was good. I don't know what that is. And there was like, you know, wanting to stop it. And so it's just a reaction. And so then, you know, so it's like, okay, yeah. And it was just like, oh dear, here we are. Like we are in this now. And I'm going to try to remember like parts of this. And my experience wasn't like, yeah, it's just, it is what it is. So I go back and I hear the person on the one side of me, like there's like a rhythmic thing she's doing with her breath, and there's some sound coming out, and I'm like, that's happening. And then, you know, I'm like, okay, so what's in? And I'm in my own space, just again, that sense of you're just in your body, but you're not in your body. And then all of these, I would say that they were numeric geometric lines of beings, like geometric numeric line beings came in, black, red, and white, all coming in. And I felt like I was being swarmed. And it didn't feel nurturing. It didn't feel loving. It was like, it felt like it was an aggressive agenda that swept around me. And I was like, oh no. And it was just that sense of like, this is like boundaries, you know what I mean? Like, I still want to be able to say what's going to happen next. And as that swarmed around me, it was like, because I didn't take, I know that if I had probably taken like the full last third, if I could get out that into my lungs, it would have been a longer duration, different experience. But I was really glad that, okay, so in this din of being in other dimensions, and I can still open my eyes. I can open my eyes and I'm like, okay, there's light patterns there in my legs, that's good. And you know, I'm still in this physical room, but I close my eyes and I'm someplace else. And so as it's coming around me, I'm just like, oh no, I want to be normal. I want to go back to normal. Like normal sounds really, really good right now. And, you know, I'm Mr. Like, I love altered states. I want to be in an altered state. And so it was just like this value of normal, like, oh, normal is an oasis. And so for whatever reason, I was able to like say, no. It was like I put my head in the door, but I didn't put my whole body in. And I was able to like come back out of it. And I was like, and it was a twofold experience, because I could feel as I was resisting, it was like the energy got into my face. And I was like, okay, this is what it's like for people who are doing full blown ayahuasca ceremonies, where she gets in your face, but she doesn't leave. She's just like, it's like, if you resist me, it's going to be ugly. If you let go, I'll take you someplace. So it was a sensation of that, but like on a much milder version of that. And then it was like, it was like, oh, you ruined, like the energy was like, oh, you ruined it. And it was like all of the patterns started to become droopy. It was like they were starting to melt and just dissipate. And like there had been a portal that was starting to form that I think they were gonna like pick me up and take me through. And that portal that had like the geometric patterns around it started to melt and just droop and fall off. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I apologize, but I was also like, oh, God. I was like, oh, thank God. And it was like, ooh, okay, here, vomp. And I was like, oh, I'm out of it. Oh, thank God. And for me, I'm really grateful for that being the experience. Because Linda, I thought about you and I was like, Linda would hate this. I was like, Linda would hate this. I can't recommend this to, knowing that you and I are very similar in, in some of our personality traits. And I was like, that is, and I was like, I'll never do that again. I was like, plant medicine's not for me. I was like, I don't want these beings to wrap around me and take control and take me someplace. Like that, it just feels so invasive and uncomfortable. And I was like, yeah, meditation and breath work. Mm-hmm. Like that became a thing where I'm like, that is so valuable to me now. So so now I'm just kind of at a place. My place with this right now is like, well, if ayahuasca shows up and it's like, no, Kat, this is your path, and that is a door you're going to need to go through in that specific way. I've got a little bit of a precursor for it, but it's terrifying. I want to say losing the control in that space where it's like, my rules don't matter. My understanding doesn't matter. My perception doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you're there and you are not the anchor. You're not the director. Any of those things I'm used to being, it's not there. And it made me just appreciate normal so much more. And the fact that there are other routes to get there, because I was like, I want to go there. I want to have these experiences, but I don't want to be swarmed. I don't want to be lifted off and carried off and just be like, invaded, because that's how it felt, invasive to me. It didn't feel grandmotherly. Like if that was my grandmother, I'd be like, you fucking stay over in Arizona. Don't come visit me. I don't want to know about it, So that was my experience. And then I was just laying there and listening to other people suffering or having different experiences and just, having empathy with them and being like, and let them go through it, love them, let them go through it. And knowing that other people are having, like sounds or releasing this over here, this person's having that. And just to kind of be there in the space while that's going on and drifting in and out and still being part of it, but no longer on the roller coaster ride to Mars. So, and thus concludes my story of Changa. So
not the best review we've ever had, but it's a review.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I think the thing though is that everybody's experiences are different. And you've got other people that experienced it and had very different outcomes. But I think it's a good, for those of us like me, I'm more of a control freak over my body. I think my mind, I'm less of a control freak over, but my body, I'm much more of a control freak over. And so, I think that I would really struggle with that process of the physical side of it
for sure
versus the mental.
And then, what, lots of times when people come here with control issues, the lessons that they get don't look nothing like they anticipate. Like, the appreciation for normalcy is what you brought from that experience.
Yes, and that was actually the gift.
That's what you came here for, unknowingly.
Right. Because, that's so true, because I always have this thing where, even though I've gotten better and better and better in terms of not wanting to be on the planet and just wanting to go back home, it was like, that's just been Linda knows, it's been a long standing pattern. And this kind of gave me this thing of like, this or this, and that's like, oh, this actually is really valuable, this is actually really beautiful, and I can take increment steps here, as opposed to being impatient and being like, I just want to astral travel now, I just want to be able to do blah blah blah, and all my personal impatience. It's like, well, isn't it great that there are levels and that you can take classes, that you can do practices on your own and hit levels and goes through a graduation process, as opposed to being, kicked to outer space. And I think being kicked to outer space is super valuable. And it's not like, this isn't really meant to be a negative review. It's about my experience.
No, it's
right.
I
don't think it's a negative at all. I think that what it did was what I saw from you before was that there was this lacking, because you weren't shooting off into it. There was this comparison that was happening for you all the time. And it was like, oh, this really is what's good for me. This is really who I am supposed to be right here and now. Maybe in the future, I can try this again and have a different experience, and that may come up when you're at that stage. But at this stage in your life right now, it's more of an appreciation of what you have and who you are
Mhm.
and how you're experiencing it. And that's
Yeah.
a huge gift.
We see a lot of people that come to ceremony, you know, and don't take any offense to this, but there's people that come to ceremony that are looking too much into the future, and they haven't learned to appreciate the magical blessing that is every moment.
Yes. Oh
You
God.
know,
Mhm.
You
and
nailed it. You nailed it.
that's that was really
Yeah.
transformational when I understood that, because when I started on this path, you know, I was like, I need to do another ayahuasca ceremony so I can go deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, honestly, now I don't do ceremony for myself, because I don't need to look anywhere else. All the lessons and all the communication is all around me all the time. All the blessings, I see spirit and everything around me. You know, I know that it is melded in my world now, and I see how much of a blessing every breath is, and and being in that present moment, and where that power is in the present moment. So that's where I try to remain. And you know, for me, there's not times where I do check-ins with ayahuasca and stuff where I sit down and drink the medicine by myself anymore. Like, that was a part of my path, obviously, and honoring that part of it. Obviously, I've drank a lot of ayahuasca to get to this understanding, but you know, I understand that ayahuasca is very hard to come by, and it grows very slow, and it's a lot to get it up here from South America, you know, and sometimes customs grab some of it and takes it for themselves and do whatever. I don't know what they do with it, but all jokes aside, that medicine, I would be wasting it for me to sit down and do a ceremony with it, because I don't need that you know, I don't need it like that, you know. And if I do need it in the future, it's there waiting for me. But I get it's so much beauty. There's so much more beauty in the moment if you can just find it. You know, that same beauty that's in the ceremony, the same beauty that's in the vision is the same beauty that's in front of you. It may look a little different, but it's the same.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, on the counterpoint in terms of experiences, like Lydell, like and I you know, I'm just going to kind of give you some outlines of his journey, because it's his journey and I don't want to dip, but just to give contrast is that, like, he started experience plant medicine 6 months ago, and he's telling me about his life before and after, and I'm like, how? And he's like showing pictures of himself before and after. He's physically completely different, like lost not just weight, but like his body language, his face, everything's different. And when he went and experienced this, he went to a place of oneness, where it was like the vibration, this sphere of oneness emanating a vibration. And where there was no good, no bad, it was only the eternal now. And that's where he had an experience, and you guys were talking about this, where he was like, whoa! Like, he was like screaming at the top of his lungs, like on a roller coaster ride, having the best ride ever for like 20 minutes. Like, that wasn't last night, that was one of his previous experience. And so it's like, it's like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I want to go there too and experience that. But the conditions to get you there are like the thing where I'm like, oh, but not with those conditions. Well, you don't get to control that. Like, that's not something that you get to choose. If you choose a plant medicine, it's not on your terms.
It'd be like getting on a plane and poking your head in the cabin and being like, hey, we're going to fly at this altitude at this rate,
and you're going to serve me these snacks. Like, this is what I want during the experience, because I want to have this same consciousness where I feel in control, as opposed to it being a universe where I'm a part of it, but my particular voice isn't relevant at that point. I just need to receive.
I have this vision of, you know, people who absolutely love being on roller coasters, and people like me who clench up and tighten and scream the entire time because I can't enjoy the ride.
That's a good analogy. I mean, I like roller coasters, but just not that one, man. Whew.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, that's what it kind of felt like. Is like not allowing yourself to go further in, and that's okay. That was like what was right at the time for you.
it's exactly what it was in the moment, and that's the ton of what we preach too, and however it looks, everybody finds their inner guru when they come here, I'm just plugging the book again, but by the way, I've just published my second book. This is the first podcast I've announced that on.
Hey,
Yay.
Yeah, that's the empowerment thing is a big part of what we do here, because it's my goal is to work myself out of a job. I love doing ceremony, but it is stressful, it is taxing on the family and everybody involved. But it's worth it, and it's worth it because my belief is, we're all part of the collective, and the more people that get down here and they work through their own shit, then they heal the collective shit. They hear the collective consciousnness. You heal your own consciousness, you in turn heal the collective consciousness. And I feel repercussions of that personally as Drew. And just given the laws of the universe, from my understanding, and it works that way. I feel better, I've not only for personal reasons, but to see someone else a little bit lighter, whether it be a full on, 180-degree turn, like our friends that he's mentioning now, or if it's someone that comes to dip their toe and see maybe this ain't the right time for plant medicine, and maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't, but everyone has took something from these moments, and they're profound. They're all equally profound in their own right.
And it's not, because that's the thing, is that you hear people having these fantastic experiences, but you really you have to say that your experience is going to be your experience. And again, you just can't compare and walk in with an expectation, because that's what you're going to trip over and be like, well, it's not what I thought I signed up for. But it is, I would say, if anybody's curious about ayahuasca and you want to do a baby step with ayahuasca, if you had the Changa experience with this, baby step in terms of because I was if I had to experience this for 8 hours, I can see where people would get PTSD. Because if you're fighting it for 8 hours and being like, where the fuck am I? What's happening? That could give you PTSD. So it's if you're not sure if it's right for you, to me, this ceremony was great because it gave me the spectrum of is this what you really want? Without being too bad, you're there now, you have to go through it. It gave me a permission to pop my head in, have my head, slapped upside the head a few times, and then be able to pull back and take away from that what I need to take back. And everyone's experience is valid. So, but I think this is a good way. And I don't want it to paint any negative light at all. It's just that.
No, I don't think that.
But
okay.
To me, I really feel like doing it, doing it with Drew gave you a level of safety and security, and a level of being able to dip your toe in and in a safe way and in a safe environment to really learn if this is right for you. And if it was, or if it will be in the future,
could be in the future,
that this is a safe place for you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine you trying to do this in the rainforest with someone who you don't know, and I can't even imagine what that would be like, right?
Yeah, could you imagine going to Peru, a country that you've never been to before, working with someone you've never met before? There'd be so many new, because it was just new coming here, right? There's still enough new for it to be uncomfortable for me, but that's a whole nother level of surrender here, surrender there, surrender here, and it's just until there's nothing left to surrender,
Yeah.
I guess that's probably a good point that's when you're gonna leap off and be do with me what you will.
When there's a language barrier, you can't say, I don't want a full cup. I don't. Just be like, gracias.
So I do have a really great question from Amy, and she said, what would you say was the very best part of the experience for you, the worst part, and your overall takeaway? Was it well worth it?
Yeah, we can summarize it. It was totally worth it. I'm so grateful I did it. I would say some of the two of the best experiences. I mean, meeting the people, having the people, and hearing other people's stories and being like, this is your journey, this is what brought you here, and your people's transformation stories, and like, yeah, and just because everyone's so beautiful and wonderful, like it's like that is probably one of the core gifts, is the community, these new touchstones of souls that are now, you know, I feel like my heart family, and on whatever level. That is a huge gift. And I think just having my head set straight on like, what a gift to be able to experience this, but not be pummeled. You know, I got to experience some pummeling, but for it not to be that, and for me to be able to have a taste test of it on that level is a real big gift. Because I feel like what I you know, in terms of just in my role as translator of experiences and, you know, interviewing and talking with people, it gives me my own anchoring of it, as opposed to sitting there and being like, wow, and then you did what? Then you did what? And I'm idolizing, I'm fantasizing, I'm building it up. And there's not a context for how brutal it can actually be. And I experienced this much of brutal, like this teeny kind of brutal compared to what other people might go through. So yeah, so that was huge. What was the other questions? I'm sorry.
I think it was just the best, the worst, and your overall takeaway.
Oh, the worst was just like that sensation of like, you've opened a door to a universe that you don't understand, and you've decided to step into it, and whatever you thought before doesn't matter. Who cares what you thought before? You're completely out of control. And so there was an element of understated terror within that, because it was like, it's a different universe. It's a different language. It's a different relationship to what I'm feeling. And so at that level of not having that momentary experience of everything shifting and being like, was this a mistake? You know, as it's shooting through my head, as I'm hearing this intense ringing through the top of my head, and having that sensation of like, oh, this is what it feels like before you pass out. You know, it was like, oh, and then going there, that whole heightened experience of understated terror was the worst, but it was still good. You know what I mean? Like it was the worst, but it was still good.
Had its purpose.
It was so, because it's humbling. It's like, it really is a thing of like, you think you're in control. You're not in control. Here, your rules don't matter here. And if you're not really ready to let that all go, or you need to let it all go, or whatever. And then what was the last question?
So I think
overall takeaway. I think you said it really well in terms of being in the moment, because it was like, well, the thing of like, normal is a gift. Like Kat, access the sacred now. Like, you keep wanting to do something to shift yourself so you can access this. Once you can astral travel, once you can blah, I'll be happy once I can, you know, and like that whole narrative is really negating how precious this connection is here on this dimension, on this level, in this density. And that way of thinking that I've held for so long has negated the sacred magic medicine of here right now.
In my thoughts, if we can't appreciate the here and now, why would we be given the next step?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's you know, the medicine is, these medicines grant wishes, you know, how I like to explain it so people could understand it.
Unconscious wishes.
What's your deepest, darkest wish? You know, I want to astral travel. This is what astral travel looks like. Do you still want to do it?
But on that level, on that level, because
astral
travel,
like.
But
that's what it's like.
I would say I want to counter that, because other people have astral travel where they don't see light, geometric, numeric forms in the experience of being utterly out of control. They're astral traveling, saying, oh, I'm going to go visit my grandmother. Oh, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to meet with a spirit guide. They're consciously navigating their experience. You're not consciously navigating your experience. Like, it's a form of astral travel, but it's a different universe. Like, that medicine is a different dimension, and different rules apply. Our battery's running low, so we have to probably sign off here in a minute.
So I have one request from you, Kat.
Okay,
To
banjo.
try to draw the dimensions, the symbols that you saw.
What
I
about
would love for you to try and draw the symbols that you saw.
Oh, okay. I can do a version
Just
of it.
for recall later.
Yep. Okay. We'll do.
Yeah.
We'll do.
So, okay, well, their battery is dying. So that means our show is coming to an end. Please like, share, subscribe. We're going to put, if we don't already have it, Drew's information in there with
Yeah, no,
the
Drew's
link to the
information, our
book.
information, it's all down there.
All
If you want
in
to buy
the-
us a
yeah.
cup of coffee, a virtual cup of coffee to help support us, we really appreciate it because it helps us expand our mission and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, and I published my second book, and this we're at our church right now, Secret Journeys Within. Linda, if you could, put that where we're at now, it'd be great.
All your links are below. Yeah.
It's all everything below. And I know you guys are running out. One person said, question, other than what Kat is explaining about here and now, what is the most common reason that drives people to experience plant medicine with Drew? What does he notice about where people are?
Well, again, I think it's
oh shoot, time's out. So answer quick.
What's that? Well, I would say, I mean, I can only, in the tiny window I have to look through, it's that place of like, everything I've been doing is self-destructive. None of this is going to work anymore. If I keep on this path, I will self-destruct. There's nothing left. Something has got to take a hold of me and shift me because I'm out of cards. And it's that point of brutal bottom line, can't function anymore. I'm just going to die. And that's one point of surrender, right? And I think that primes you with a plant medicine, because at that point it isn't about, because you've done everything.
Yeah, it's surrender out of necessity. There's a whole multitude of reasons why people come, but I've found that the necessity for change really those people that come they really experience the most out of these ceremonies.
Yeah, and I highly recommend that people reach out to you, Drew, and,
please,
ask questions
through the website. Yeah, just there'll be an email coming back to you if you reach out through the website, find the contact link on there, and we can go from there, and hope that we can help you. And much love to everybody and blessings, and thank you, Kat, for trusting and surrendering as much as you did to the medicine, and visiting our church, and appreciate your support and everything, brother.
Yeah,
your friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing, just real quick, is I feel like there's a network emerging, like these shamans like Drew and medicine leaders like Drew. It's time for them to really come together and build this network, because this thread of consciousness through plant medicine is vital. It's connecting the plant and the earth and souls back together again. So if you know people who are, plant medicine facilitators, however label you want to give that, I really encourage you all to reach out to each other and to become bonded and to create your network online and in person, because the world's ready for you to all take root and all grow together, so that it's irresistible for oneness to be born on the planet. Boom. Boom. Okay.
There we go. And with that, I think I'm going to let you guys go, because I know your battery keeps beeping, and
He's got a concert to go play in.
He's got a concert to play.
Everyone. Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, like, share, subscribe. If you know someone who's thinking of doing this, then this might be a great video. I don't see a lot of people sharing their first experience. I see a lot of people who do it all the time. So this is a really good, I think, introduction of one experience.
Yeah.
And there are many experiences. And so thank you. We love you. We will see you next week. And do we know who we're talking to next week? Or are we
next week we're going to speak
again?
with Thea. Thea is somebody who has experienced her own near-death experience and connection to the other side. And she's going to come on the show. She's a kind of a theater person like I am. So kind of like a bold, brassy personality. So she's going to be really fun to have on. And she's very candid. So I think it's going to be a blast.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next week. We're going to do our Brady Bunch bye. Hang on one
Yeah, this is
sec.
where
Applause, guys.
All right.
Applause.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks,
We
everyone.
love you.
Love you all.